Now the question. This is a question that's come up before between me and Q. Why are all the black kids sitting together at the lunch table? This was funny when we got a chance to talk about it a while back. This has been some years now, but it came up again recently, and it's you hear the question posed, not just about black kids, but why are the black kids doing this, or why are the black kids doing that, or why are the Hispanic kids always doing this, or why do these folks dress like that, or why the white kids do this, or whatever, right? Of course, in our world, it's very black and white. So we get approached, from people that know the type of work we do, and they are perhaps legitimately curious, and they wonder these things, right? And we talk about church, we talk about all these cultural silos, and for folks that aren't intimately familiar with it, it seems like they're racial silos. It could seem like they're racial silos, right? And so differentiating race and culture is, I think, important for folks that might not regularly or might have never stopped to really appreciate the line that divides the two, okay? So here's a little bit of background on this particular question about the black kids sitting together at the lunch table, again, from Quora. But it was a question posed, and there's a decent response to it. So I figured I'll share it, just again, frame this conversation that you and I are about to have. The question goes, I saw black students sitting separately from white students in dining halls at the University of Delaware. Why was that? Do blacks feel ill at ease near whites? And then the response was from someone named Brother Nkosi. It says, I was also visiting that day at the university, and what I noticed was all the white kids sitting separate and apart from the black kids. Do white kids feel ill at ease around blacks? Historically, there is a group that has told another group that they could only sit in one area of the bus, have told them to not eat in the same restaurant or use the same bathroom, et cetera, et cetera. Do black people have a history of that? It might have been a nice gesture, considering that history, for the white kids to come over and then invite the black kids to sit with them. Also, graciously understand if the black kids declined, because if those white kids had learned anything about black history while they were in high school, they would have came to the same conclusion that many black people have, that racial healing is a process, not an event. So to answer your question, given the historical relationship and current climate, maybe they did feel a little ill at ease. It's possible. Lastly, to be of most benefit to you, the question has to become, why did you feel the onus of mingling? Or why did you feel the onus of mingling was on them under the circumstances? If you can be honest with yourself as to the framing of the question, you will have moved forward as a person. So there's a lot there, but I want to add just a little bit more before we get to our back and forth cue. So I looked up the definition of culture just because I think it's going to help us out. So culture, the first definition says, the arts and other manifestations of human intellectual achievement regarded collectively. Okay. So arts and other manifestations, creations, etc., regarded collectively. Okay. And then 2, the customs, arts, social institutions, and achievements of a particular nation, people, or other social group. So Caribbean culture is a great example. And then we'll talk about race. Okay, the definition of race is each of the major groupings into which humankind is considered in various theories or contexts to be divided on the basis of physical characteristics or shared ancestry. Okay, that is not scientific, but physical characteristics. Okay, so I have curly hair. If Q grows his hair out, it looks similar to mine largely. We have brown skin, that sort of thing. So race. There are people that are of the same race as me and Q and don't share the same culture as me and Q. Caribbean people is a great example. I did not grow up as a Caribbean man. And so if I went to a lunchroom and there was a group of Caribbean people sitting together, they would be sitting according to their culture, not according to their race, right? And they'd be having conversations that are relevant. They'd be sharing jokes and sharing foods, and in an environment where they're comfortable among each other and not being judged by perhaps my American sensibilities, right? And there's the dividing line. Now, one of the things that happens often with non-black people entering into a lunchroom setting or some other equivalent setting is they'll see black people grouping together and they will feel excluded from that, right? And I want to say two things about that. Growing up black, living black my whole life, white folks I cannot think of a single example ever in my life of black folks sitting together and saying, I'm so glad that no white people are sitting with us, right? That's not, white folks are not excluded from that. It's not a decision based on excluding people, but rather about finding people that you won't feel are judging you. Where if you do eat, remember we talked about eating a watermelon, eating a banana, these foods that we are very cognizant of, eating a piece of fried chicken. You don't feel the gaze, you don't feel the judgment, you don't feel like you're letting down your ancestors, you know what I mean? So you just find folks who you're comfortable. And it's not just what your food you're eating, but a whole host of things. The other thing is, again, I think the article or the response says it best. It is not impossible. It is not frowned upon to go and make a new friend, right? If I'm Ramses Ja Rudy King Taylor II, that is who I am, right? I was born in Compton, California in 1982. Okay, the whole time I've lived in these United States of America, and the whole time I knew that life was better for white folks, and that white folks they've regarded as en masse have regarded black people in a different way than we regard ourselves, right? However whatever that means to you, if you're listening, whatever that means to you, there is a distinction between how white folks regard us and how we regard ourselves. Okay, if that's fair, if you'll allow me that, then the rest of this makes sense. So knowing that these folks have the capacity, the potential, maybe there's a likelihood that they would judge me, that I might embarrass them, bring shame to them. They don't want to sit with me. Knowing that is even a possibility, given the history of this country, given my own personal treatment, given what I've known from TV, what I know from police, what are my own apertures into my reality. If I'm looking for the most comfortable place to sit in a room where I'm not going to ruffle any feathers, not going to upset anybody, well, I know that the people that look like me aren't going to regard me in a way that is going to be damaging to me, and I'm not going to be damaging to them. And it's easy to find comfort there. And it's not necessarily because of how they look, not because of their racial composition. It's just that's one way of determining whether or not they share the same culture as me. So hopefully that frames it, but you're always welcome to come and say hi. I don't ever want anybody to feel like you can't come say hi or you can't come sit with us. We've never had that energy. That's always been something that has come from the other side. Okay, you are always welcome to sit. You can be our brothers. You might have to learn a couple things, but we got you. I know I talked a lot, Q, but it's on you. My bad. I do it a lot.
I chuckle every time you do that. We'll have a 10-minute segment. Ramses will talk 9 minutes and 30 seconds. My bad, dog. What you got? Black people's culture was mostly stolen from us.
Sure.
And I had to learn this in one of the most embarrassing ways possible. Sitting at dinner in Barcelona with a group of friends and being asked where I was from, I responded Detroit. And I saw confusion on the face of the people at the table as they followed that question up, like, no, where's your family from? To which I responded, Georgia. My mother from Macon, Georgia. And again, one of them asked if I meant Georgia like Eastern Europe. And I said, no, I mean Georgia like Atlanta, like the dirty South. And one person at the table realized that I didn't understand the question. And he rubbed his fingers on his arm to show the brown skin and asked me again where I was from. And I realized in that moment, of the 12 or 13 people at the table, the only person that couldn't answer the question, where are you from, was me. And for Black Americans, that for so many of us is a question that we can't answer. So our culture and our ethnicity being replaced by the systemic thing that we do over here called race, a social construct that doesn't mean what you think it means, because there's a singular race of Homo sapiens sapien, and that's human. So here we are at that nexus point again.